it's important for us to highlight the different things that's happening in society, because I told y'all and I warned y'all a long time ago that y'all need to be a little bit more intentional with how it is that you move, and as far as anticipating what your next move is, not living based off of your current circumstance. Hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get it popping.
Look around. Okay, across the street, we have a delivery truck carrying food to offices, construction sites all around. Sheetrock, where'd he come from? On a truck. Nothing moves without us. Many owner-operators now are homeless. They cannot afford to have a home. This is my home.
It breaks my heart to know that people are victims of ignorance. That's the best way to put it. And ignorance is not something that's bad. It's something that's real. To be ignorant is just to not know. You know, a lot of us get money early in life and we think that that shit is going to last forever. It's not. A lot of us make a lot of money at certain times in our lives, and we don't put up for tomorrow. That's not kosher. It's going to be bad out here in these streets. And so it's one thing to do it because that's what you're doing in order to make sure that you cut costs, expenses. You're doing it because you can. It's another thing to do it because you don't have no choice. And that's the thing that I want to separate you from. There's nothing wrong with making the adjustment no matter what. We seen a yellow truck company go out of business, and they had tens of thousands of employees, ain't getting no pension, $700 million bailout. Everybody just out on the street is just gone. It's just gone. And again, I want to separate things because it's one thing to do it because this is what's in our best interest. It's another thing to do it because this is what you have to do.
I live with my truck, whether I stay in a hotel or I sleep sitting up in the driver's seat. This is my home. Why? I work 12 to 14 plus hours a day, but I don't earn enough.
This is Billy Randall.
He worked 14 hours a day and he don't even earn enough to be able to have a dwelling outside of sleeping in his truck.
Long-haul trucker for over 30 years. We're working on a new series now about jobs in America that used to be stable and middle class and are all but gone. One of the most dramatic shifts from good job to bad job is in the trucking industry. Trucking used to be one of the most coveted blue-collar jobs in America. The average trucker made $110,000 a year. That's enough to raise a family and have a home. Now many of them, like Billy, are barely making minimum wage.
We're tired of
To go from making over $110,000 when $110,000 actually was worth more than what it is today to making minimum wage. Let me ask you guys a question. What job in America? I need y'all to let me know in the chat. Think this shit through before you answer it. What job in America? What blue collar job in America today that will be here 10 years from now? Because I want to change the way you think about your career, money, long-term investments, everything. What job, blue collar job today is guaranteed to be here in 10 years that you can make $100,000 on right now? Think about that shit and let me know in the chat.
being the back of the economy because our backs are broken.
We're going to unpack exactly what happened through the stories of two truckers that are struggling. One who's been a driver for decades and one who's trying to make a life for himself in the industry. This is the classroom for More Perfect Union, and today we're looking at why truckers can't make a living.
All hours worked, all hours paid.
I met Billy at a rally in DC with the Truckers Movement for Justice. Billy's a little bit of a wild man. He's currently trying to lead strikes in the coal mines of West Virginia and the oil fields of Texas, and I think he might pull it off. Billy has a vision. The truckers
Y'all said plumbing, HVAC tech, law enforcement. Yeah, a lot of people overlook law enforcement. Construction worker, U.S. Steel, surgeon. No. Y'all saying surgeon and all of this other type of stuff. What blue collar is guaranteed to be here 10 years from now? Blue collar, I see a lot of y'all keep saying plumber, welder, electrician, home builder, automotive, that you can make $100,000 today that is guaranteed to be valued the same way that it is 10 years from now and it's not going away. Electrician, construction, military, okay, I like that. Mechanical engineering in the oil and gas field, and the oil and gas field going to be is that going to be what it's going to be 10 years from now? What it is today? Do we know? Firefighters, nursing, plumber, PLC programmers, technicians, HVAC, blue collar, y'all. Oil, OnlyFans model. Fire optic splicer. Homes are 3D printed now. Facts. Electrician, plumber, and an HVAC tech. Now, a lot of y'all keep saying electrician, general contractor and stuff. Let me ask y'all a question. Is your back going to be able to deal with the same shit that it's dealing with today? A lot of y'all tired right now. A lot of y'all are tired right now. Your knees need a replacement. You're going to be crawling in all of these small crawl spaces, laying wires, electricians, and all of this shit. Let me ask you another question. Is there going to be somebody cheaper to be able to replace you? These are all of the questions that y'all should be asking yourselves as y'all go through these processes. These are the questions that I want people to be asking themselves, because I don't want you to forever look at it from a worker's perspective, having your lifestyle depend on what it is that you bring home every day. I want you to start looking at what you can plan for long term that allows you to be able to maintain your standard of living for the rest of your life. Okay?
Workers would be organized again after 40 years of not having power. Let's go back a little bit. This might be what you think of when you think of a trucker. An outlaw, a guy on the road with nothing to lose. But in reality, a lot of them lived pretty regular lives and went home to their families every night.
It was a hard, dirty job, but it was a good job.
The truckers I met in Washington all had the same complaints.
Breakdown, honestly, that put me out of bed.
I don't want to lose my company, I don't want to lose my trucks, I don't want to lose my home.
The pay is low, the cost of doing business is high. Let's get back to Billy. Like 350,000 other drivers in America, Billy is an owner-operator, meaning he owns his own truck. It also means he's responsible for the overhead, repairs, insurance, maintenance. And if something goes wrong, it can cost him.
Today the truck broke down. A very minor repair, but nonetheless, it created a problem with the delivery. I've got, not to publicize this, $1,200 to my name.
Truckers like to say if you bought it, a truck brought it. Truckers take great pride in that work, but that work can often be pretty tough for them.
He said he got $1,200 to his name. Shout out to Lifestyle Enthusiasts. I'm going to be acknowledging that super chat shortly. $1,200 to his name. He's been working in the industry for over 30 years. Over 30 years. He ain't sitting up there with a bunch of platinum chains on. He don't have no super fast cars that he can show for it. We not even sure if he got a 401k, a retirement. We don't know what the fuck he got going on. You know what the funniest part about it is? I was talking to somebody and they was giving me the game. And this was a couple years ago when trucking was really, really booming during the pandemic. And you had all of these gurus trying to convince y'all and tell y'all how y'all was supposed to get into trucking, right? And it's hilarious because somebody was trying to get me to get into trucking. And so like I do everything, I started to vet through and have the 8 things that I look for when I'm looking to invest in a company, right? And so I was like, well, how is it that y'all going to be able to recruit drivers? And what if the prices change? And what if we buy this truck and then it has a breakdown and we don't have anybody on the road making money? And so I started asking all of these questions. And I was like, hey, I'm not really even sure that you're supposed to be in the business. And he was like, you think so? I said, yeah, you need to pivot. Because this is not something that's sustainable. Based off of the way that he was running the business. He wound up pivoting. He's doing phenomenal now. Every day he thanks me as a result of the conversations that we was having.
For them.
This is Steve Vaselli, a former truck driver who's been studying the industry for over a decade. Steve says one of the main causes of wage decreases was deregulation. Before the 1930s, trucking was unregulated and stuck in boom and bust cycles. The economy would be strong and things would be moving in trucks, and then suddenly there would be a downturn and truckers were out of work. Trucking is so crucial to the economy that in 1935, the federal government started heavily regulating the industry by setting shipping prices and limits on how many trucks could be on the road.
The federal government essentially set the rates for trucks. If you were going to move steel from Youngstown to New York, you would go to something called the Interstate Commerce Commission, and you would say to them, hey, my costs to move this steel are $1 a mile. And the Interstate Commerce Commission would say, well, okay, then you can charge $1.06 per mile to your customers, whether it's U.S. Steel or a mom and pop machine shop that needs to move it.
Freight was moved from terminal to terminal, where local deliveries would combine smaller loads together and send them to the next terminal through long-haul truckers.
What that meant for drivers was a lot of them were home every night and they had regular schedules. It also meant that those terminals were easier to unionize.
The whole industry was unionized and regulated under the National Master Freight Agreement, negotiated by the Teamsters, which was one of the most powerful unions in the United States.
The Teamsters, I believe, represented the yellow trucking company that also just recently went out of business and went under. The Teamsters represented the yellow trucking company, I believe. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Shout out to Anastasio. Represented the yellow trucking company and many other industries that are now going out of business.
That all ended when Jimmy Carter signed the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 in an effort to lower prices for consumers. This was a bipartisan effort.
You probably don't think of truckers as timid people, but that's because you haven't seen how some of them react when you say competition.
Republicans, Democrats, and industry were all involved. And in a way, deregulation worked. Prices went down for consumers and rates went down for shippers. And it opened up competition so that the larger stores, think Walmart, Kmart, Costco, could haggle for lower prices. Remember that under regulation, the government set shipping prices for all stores, big and small. So deregulation brought us the world of cheap shipping that we live in now.
What that meant for truck drivers was a lot of really bad jobs.
Thousands of smaller trucking companies went out of business in the 1980s, and something else changed that made the job harder. Freight started moving point to point, from the shipper's location all the way to the customer.
For drivers, that means that they're living out of the truck. They're essentially working 24 hours a day, and they can't know exactly when they're going to be home.
That's called a free market. That's called capitalism, right? Basically, the price or the value is something based off of what people are willing to pay for it. It's a supply and demand issue. During the pandemic, everybody was making an egregious amount of motherfucking money. Everybody was getting a bag, which is why you're seeing 1,000 gurus telling y'all to go out and get into trucking and buy a bunch of trucks. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy a truck, or it doesn't mean that you should buy a truck. It means that a lot of people aren't informed and that they just automatically thought that getting into the trucking business was going to make you rich. It was cap. But when you deregulate an industry, then what happens is the market determines what it is that you're paying for that particular product. It's simple. You don't get a set wage, but then at the same time, when everything is booming, you make an exponential amount of money, and you can't complain about the fact that, well, they making all of this money and whatever, so on and so forth, I should get paid more money. No, you have a set price, but you home every day. But now you get what you earn, and if you want to be able to pick up a certain type of freight, or it's cold freight, or whatever the name of it is, or it's that frozen stuff or whatever, and you want to go all the way fucking across the country, and you want to live on the road, and you want to live in your truck, you may make more money, right? Or if a whole bunch of people get inside of the industry, it lowers the prices because everybody is now undercutting each other, right? And so that is called market capitalism, that is then determined based off of supply and demand and then how much somebody is willing to pay for something depending on what the market dictates. Housing, lumber prices. When the pandemic, interest rates are super low, right? When interest rates was super low, everybody was trying to go and buy a house at the same time. Drove up the price of the houses. Money was cheap. It's the same thing when it comes to any industry, including trucking.
And the thing is, truckers don't make overtime. That's right. Truckers are one of the few workers that are exempt from overtime in our labor laws. So a trucker can be working 100 hours a week and not make close to minimum wage.
Yeah, reefer freight.
All
That's
of
what
these
it's
changes
called.
have created a labor crisis. The turnover rate at most companies is now well over 100%. That's why every year the American Trucking Association claims there's a driver shortage.
80,000 drivers short amid the supply chain crisis.
This historic trucker shortage again.
And in less than a decade, it's projected to get even worse.
And you know what the funny part about it is? It's not a shortage. It's an overabundance of drivers, which also drove the prices down. And you know what the interesting thing about trucking is? Not only is it going through a boom and bust cycle, but technology companies are trying to innovate trucking in order to not depend on y'all in the first place to drive costs even further down. Meaning that all this automation is not necessarily to keep drivers happy. It's so that they can sell you software, make more money for the technology companies, and then eliminate all of the issues that come along with trying to hire people during boom and bust cycles. You can control costs. You can drive out the human aspect of it, what then makes it more reliable. And then it's managed by technology, which then causes more disruption for the people that are working in these industries. Everything is going to be innovated in one way or another. The question that y'all need to ask yourselves, the question that we need to be asking ourselves is, are you going to be at the forefront of it and not affected by it by then leveraging what it is that you make now in order to make more money as a result of it? Or are you going to be the person that's reacting to it and then advocating to the federal government in order to try to fix your job or pay your pension? That's the question.
Billy is 71 years old, and the average driver is 48 years old.
Man, listen. At 71, I don't want to be fucking grinding like that. Whatever it is that I'm doing it, I want to do it because I love it, not because I have to. At 71 years old, I'm not trying to be in these streets. I'm 41 right now, and I'm moving with vigor. At 71, man, cut that shit out. I'm about to read super chat shortly. At 71, I'm not trying to be in these streets trying to compete with you motherfuckers. I'm not trying to compete with 48-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, or 20-year-olds. At 71, I don't want to have to work in order to try to maintain or try to survive. Fuck that. And I know it seemed like it's a long time away for y'all, but I'm telling you, it's going to be there like that. It's going to be there like that. A lot of y'all, even if you're making a lot of money with regard to trucking, that's cool. I feel you. Absolutely get that shit. This winter, when my daughter is out of school, I'm not even going to fucking go to Miami. I think I'm going to go to Hawaii. I heard that the weather is better in Hawaii than it is in Miami during the wintertime. I've never been to Hawaii. I got a lot of countries I want to visit, a lot of places I want to go to, all of that. You are basically telling me that this man is going to work until he dies. He's going to work. His entire life is a fight to survive until he dies.
The industry needs younger drivers to enter the business and stay, like Caleb Fernandez. Unlike Billy, he's a company driver, and he's paid by the mile. He also uses the company's truck. While Caleb doesn't have the same expenses as Billy, he has to worry about something else: surveillance.
The biggest problem solving that I do in my day is working so that I can be legal in the regulations.
In 2017, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration introduced electronic logging devices.
So I've got 6 hours left that I can work until tomorrow.
These logs are meant to keep the drivers from working too long and to make sure they take breaks. But what it really does is mess with trucker autonomy.
It tracks my location and knows if I've been moving the truck around, so I can't lie and say that I've been driving less hours than I have been. So it lets you know on the e-log if you're doing something illegal. It'll warn you, hey, wait a minute.
Drivers start the clock and have 14 hours to work before they have to take a 10-hour rest. During that shift, they can only drive for 11 hours and take 3 hours for stops or deliveries. The problem is, they might get stuck waiting on a load, or they might break down, or they might need to take a long nap. But the clock keeps running.
And y'all didn't want to be regulated. Remember, you wanted capitalism, but then you got capitalism and you said no regulated, so now they're trying to regulate you. So which one you want? Which one do you want? You want regulation, or you want to be able to chill? My point is this: you can't have it both ways. And I want you guys, and the point of this whole thing was to convince you guys to not betray yourselves. Do not betray what is in your... Betrayal has nothing to do with somebody is going to do to you. Betrayal has everything to do with what it is that you're doing to yourself. Life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you react to it. And I want you guys to think through what you want your future to be, not just what your current circumstances are.